Hello, this is Miss Yulbrick from Ridgeview Junior High School, and today we're going to be talking about your compare and contrast essay that we will be starting. So, what is the point of this essay? The goal of any compare and contrast writing is to explore similarities and differences between two subjects. Now, these subjects could be two specific characters, or they could be your subject might be the book version versus the movie version. But either way, our goal is still the same. We are explaining to our audience what these similarities and differences are. Now, for us specifically, we're going to be using our same prompt from our paragraph that we wrote 2 weeks ago to write this specific essay. So we have already completed the body paragraphs, and now we will be working backwards to write our introductions and then our conclusions. So just as a reminder, prompt 1, again, you are focusing on our two protagonists from The Giver and The Village. And if you're writing prompt number 2, you are comparing and contrasting the fictional rules and laws in The Giver to the rules and laws in our own society. Now, there are 3 specific parts of an essay. We have our introduction, our body paragraphs, and then our conclusion. Now, our introduction has 3 specific parts. We have our hook, background information, and the most important part, our thesis statement. Now, we've already wrote our body paragraph for this essay, and we were using that acronym TEAC to include all of the parts we need. Then next week, we'll focus on writing out and refining our conclusions to wrap everything up. The reason why I have the thesis statement in red up here is because it is the most important part of your essay. It serves as a roadmap and lets your reader and audience know the direction in which your essay is headed. Now, for an introduction, there are those 3 specific parts. Your first is your hook. You want to open up your essay with an interesting quote, a question, an anecdote, or an intriguing statement to lure your audience in. You want to hook them just like a fisherman would hook a fish. You're trying to catch them and intrigue them. Now, after you hook your reader, you then want to give context to what it is you are talking about. This is where you need to provide a connection between your hook and then your thesis and let your audience know what it is you will be discussing. And you will want to make sure if you are discussing a work that you give your authors information, possibly a summary about the book or work that you will be discussing. Then your introduction will end with your thesis statement. This is your position on the topic, and you will include a claim and then your reasons for support. As mentioned on the previous slide, the thesis statement's the most important part of your essay because it is the roadmap. So now, there are different types of thesis statements. In our compare and contrast essay, you have a couple different options where you're either including an explanatory or an evaluative thesis statement. For this particular prompt, we are going to be writing an explanatory thesis because we are not taking a particular stance on a side. We are just informing our reader about similarities and differences with Jonas and Ivy or with our rules and laws in our society. So, it's important, though, to note that this type of thesis statement, it calls attention to those differences and similarities without bias. That's going to be the biggest issue down here, is focusing on not interjecting your own opinion through this writing. It's also important to note that we will be avoiding first person during this type of writing. And down here below now, we have an example of what you want to make sure that you are avoiding. So if your essay were to focus on similarities and differences between cats and dogs, then we already know it's obvious that they are different.